You join me here on a very, very cold, crisp morning up in Bedfordshire. I'm at Elstow Pit. It's a beautiful atmospheric morning actually, misty, cold, beautiful skies. I've had a good look round, got here at first light and seen a few fish actually, but I'm going to carry on having a good look round, make sure we pick the right spot. Now this is a very, very deep lake and I've come here because obviously getting your head around fishing deep venues, it can take, take a while to get used to. And this venue goes down to 30+ foot deep. So, I'm going to take you through all the sort of techniques that I will employ to catch fish from this type of lake. And hopefully, we've seen a few, hopefully we'll catch a few. I really enjoyed my trip back in January. I caught one, a beautiful 30-pounder. So I was absolutely buzzing to get back here. It's everything that I love in a lake. It's got a rugged natural beauty about it, surrounded by industry. So it's got everything you want for creating really good atmosphere. So I'm really excited to get going. Want to sort of pin these fish down a little bit this morning and make the right swim choice, and then I'll take you through all the sort of techniques I use to find features and get the bait in the right sort of spot when you're fishing these type of lakes. Had a really good look round this morning, see a fair few fish, picked an area, really happy with it. Good few shows this morning out there, and had to wait for a bit because in true Elstow tradition they did the draw at midday. So the lads have let us crack on, they've picked their swims. We're going to go down into the big reed bed now, so I'm going to load my kit up. And it's a fair old trot down there, and looks like I'm going to have to be in mountain goat sort of mode because there's a big set of steps to get down, so it's going to be a bit of unloading and reloading to get to the swim. But as I say, it's the area I wanted to be in. There's a fair few fish out there and it looks really good for a good chance, so I'm going to get myself sorted, get down there, and we'll get on with the process of finding some spots. Let's get down the old slope of doom. Electric barrows. This one's powered by True Grit, mate. I've had a good lead about in the swim now, and I was just looking for the type of area that I really want to present bait over, and that's a nice, firm, smooth, silty area. The one thing that I've noticed is that it feels inordinately deep. I know this is a deep lake, but obviously I want to check out exactly how deep that spot is before I start deploying any bait to it. I want to know exactly where my rigs are going to land in terms of where I'm putting my bait with a spom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a marker float on my fishing rods, wrap it up at exactly the same distance as I've got this lead system set up at, ping it out there, pop the float up. Firstly, I'll find out how deep it is, and then secondly, I can then cast a spom to that float, and I'll be able to reference exactly how far past my actual fishing spot my baiting would have been, and then I can tweak the spom back to the float, get it levelled up, re-clip it, and then I'll re-wrap it, and then we'll see exactly what that distance is. Because obviously with deep water fishing, we don't want to be deploying a load of bait away from where we've got our hook baits. Obviously we've got a big volume of water out here, so we want to be as accurate as possible onto this spot. So I'm going to get that done now. is 32 foot. Right, so as you can see there, the spom's landed a good 8 feet behind the float. So what I'm going to do is just tweak it back slowly till it's exactly level with the float, which means my baiting tool now is exactly above where my fishing rods are going to be. So in this deep water, we're not investing bait away from our rigs. So that's the perfect plan. It gives us a perfect opportunity to be able to put the rigs out and then bait over the top of them, knowing everything's landing on the same spot. So now I've got everything clipped up perfectly, I'm going to get my bait out for the night. I want to do this first because there's a fair bit of crayfish activity in this pond, and rather than just put my rigs out first and allow those crays to get straight on the hook baits, I'm going to get all the bait out there before I deploy my rods. So that's the way I've chosen to do it. I'm going to get this bait out for the night, a decent amount. It's deep water, there's a lot of fish been showing in this area, so I'm going to give them a bit of grub, see what happens in the morning. Right, that will do for tonight. Got enough left in the bucket there. If we do get a bite or two, I can top it up as we go along. So because of the larger items of bait that I'm using, probably 70% boilie, 20% mixed nuts and 10% hemp, quite happy to go in with at least a couple of rods on little hinges, my little multi-hinge. I just love that rig, got so much faith in it. If I can use it most places, I will. Just to sort of belt and braces that up, I'm going to fish the middle rod on a little D-rig with a tiger nut, balanced tiger nut bait, bit of plastic on top. Just because of the crayfish, just sort of gives you that extra percentage chance that it might not get interfered with as much. I'm hoping we don't get any problem from them, but we've just seen one in the margin. He's already chomping on a bit of tiger nut, so you know, you just got to wait and see. I mean, I'm going to fish the first night with real bait on all 3 rods, see what happens. If the carp turn up and we don't get any crayfish activity, great, and I'll just rebait tomorrow as I see fit. If I get crayed on any of the rods, we don't see as much carp activity, then obviously I'll have to reconsider those options tomorrow. Maybe bait again and use plastics over the top, but you know, I'm hoping to get away with real bait. That's what we're going to start the plan with anyway. So let's see. Right, those rods went out absolutely sweet. Lovely drops on all 3. And as I'm using the fluorocarbon, because it's gin clear water and in deep water, I'm going to leave the fluorocarbon to settle. Just pull the load off, put it in the line clip, let them tighten up, let them settle down, pay off a little bit more, and I'll just leave them like that and then clip the bobbins on in sort of 10-20 minutes time. There's no rush, but yeah, just nice to let that fluorocarbon do its job. It's a very heavy material, so I want it to be dropped down right down in the water layers. So yeah, give it 10-15 minutes and we'll get the bobbins on. So we're going into the first evening The lake is absolutely oozing atmosphere. Sitting here in this great big reed bed, looking out onto the cement works. It's got a real industrial raw feel to it. Right in the background behind me here is the massive looming bulk of a big distribution centre all lit up. The lake looks absolutely prime. We've seen quite a lot of fish today. They're well spread out, to be fair, but we saw a good concentration here this morning. So the rods have gone out ever so sweet, got all the bait out there, bang on. Couldn't be happier with that. Yeah, it's just a case of watch and wait now. I'm gonna sit up through these dark hours. I mean, anytime I've got an illuminated lake in front of me, I just can't help myself. Especially, you know, around this time of year when there's a lot of nighttime activity, it really does sort of ramp up the anticipation levels. And yeah, I'm a sucker for it. I'll have a few coffees and I'll be watching, listening, hopefully see a few roll over the area. And yeah, let's see what happens. You know, I think there's a very good chance of a bite. You know, seen enough activity, they're active. Considering how cold it was this morning, you know, the first proper frosts of the year, I think, this morning. Incredible skies, but for all that cold temperature, these fish they're active. You know, they're around the lake and showing, which means there's a good chance of a feed. So yeah, things look really good. I'm absolutely confident that we did the best that we could to get on the fish. So yeah, let's just see what the night brings. If there's no activity in the night, we'll reassess it in the morning. I'm just hoping and praying I don't get mullered by those crays, but you know, we went in belt and braces and put one rod out with the nut and plastic. So you know, even if the boilies do get chomped by the crays, we've got one out there sort of, you know, fishing for us. But we'll see what happens in the morning and reassess it then. But for now, I'm going to sit up, watch, wait, listen, and just absorb this amazing atmosphere that surrounds this lake of two halves. You know, I'm sat right in the heart of nature, and yet surrounding me is all this industry, and I love it. It's a super cool place to be. Another real cold one this morning. I got up for about an hour in the night just to have a listen. Heard half a dozen or so carp, sort of split left and right of the swim, couple straight out. So they're about. We're just coming into that time now this morning that we started seeing them in this swim rolling yesterday. So it's quite exciting. I know the fish are still about. They haven't moved off on this wind. It would be nice to get a bite early now. It feels like there's an opportunity to be had in this zone. I'm going to sort of ride this morning period out. I'll probably bring the rods in about midday, redo them for the afternoon, because we did see a few yesterday evening, and I think there could be that sort of late autumn bite time as the evening comes in. So we're going to sort of play the day out and see what happens. But at the moment, yeah, no bites last night. So it seems like it could be all about this sort of morning period. But yeah, I mean, in this deep water, you just don't know, because obviously where we're seeing them show, it's sort of left and right of the baited area. But obviously as they come up off your bait, they're travelling through a lot of water. So when you're seeing them 15, 20 yards away, they've probably been on you. So we just got to wait it out and see what happens. Pretty sure the rigs are all fishing efficiently. Yeah, it's just a waiting game, typical of this time of year, and especially with the weather. You know, we've got a really cold easterly blowing, but what we have got in our favour is a big pressure drop coming in later today. So fingers crossed, let's see what happens. Look at that, with a bit of beautiful morning sun on us. Made us wait a little while, but eventually they were on the bait. See some little puffs, little slicks coming up, which was nice. Couple of shows. And eventually we got the bite on my old favourite, the multi-hinge. We got to bring her up out of 30 odd foot of water. That's crazy, isn't it? Well, after that cold night, it's nice to feel that sun on my back. Well, here she comes. Taking a bit of line now. Come on, mate. In you come. There we go. Happy days. First one of the trip. Right, got that fish safely in the net now. I'm going to get this rod back out ASAP because we're seeing them out there and there could be another opportunity this morning. In that deep water you can get the rigs back over them without causing too much disturbance down there. So get this one resorted, rechucked, and then we'll get that one weighed up and photographed. But yeah, great start, great start. Look at that ball of Right, so we're just about to sort this fish out. We've had a violent occurrence on the left-hand rod again, and it's actually took my bead right up. It's obviously shook me out. Yeah, a bit gutted about that. It's obviously taken me through all that silkweed. So yeah, it was worth, even though the bobbin had gone back to exactly the same position, it was well worth bringing it in. There's my bead. So yeah, got done. Does happen from time to time, but at least we got the indication and we were able to sort it out. So yeah, we're going to get this one wrapped up, and the fish will have to wait 5 minutes while we do it, which isn't a big deal, but yeah. Shame, but there's opportunities out there. They're definitely on me. It's very exciting. £27 exactly. First morning back on Elstow since January, my second trip, and yeah, we get this one. Breakfast time bite out of deep water, 31 foot. We'd seen them showing. I got up in the early hours of the morning, seen a few over the zone, and yeah, they've got their heads down. Started seeing a few slicks coming up, and then this one pulled down, tip pulled down to the water, and yeah, proper deep water fight. Lovely 27 pounder. Full of character, great big rudder on him. A little folded tail. Lovely little scallop to his peck. And lovely little pearly scales down by the tail. What a cracking old carp. Really chuffed with him. The rig I've been using on this trip one of my favourites, my real go-to rig, and that's the multi-hinge. Tied up here with the cam stiff boom. We're fishing over fairly flat, firm bottom this trip, so suits that perfectly. The stiffness of the boom, laying over that sort of substrate, is absolutely perfect. You can tie this rig with a multitude of different materials to suit different situations. For example, if I was fishing over low-lying weed or a slightly more undulating bottom, I could have used the cam soft and then slightly longer length, so it enables it to lay over that substrate in a nice way. The main and key attribute for me is the fact that it has a super stiff doubled over section of recoil chod filament, and to that end makes it very, very difficult for the carp to deal with. So not only that, it enables me to change my hooks easily after a bite or if I dull the hook point over. Now, hook point sharpness is a very key element to my fishing, and being able to just change the hook rather than discard the whole rig makes it really versatile, quick and efficient. I'm predominantly a boilie angler. I like to fish with boilies much of the time, and this rig suits that scenario and style perfectly. It's a pop-up rig, but it enables me also to vary the height of the pop-up. So it's dependent on how high you tie this hook section. And I can tie it as low as 1 inch or as high as 3 inches. So in low-lying weed, early in the spring, I want to fish a tall pop-up. I make a few of these booms up with long 3-inch hook sections. When I'm fishing over more bait or further down into the season, when the fish are becoming more preoccupied on the bottom or they've been caught a number of times, I tend to shorten that hooking section down to 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So it's multifaceted, multi-use and multifunctional. The multi-hinge, a really, really good bulletproof rig, gives you exceptional hook holds, lose very few on this rig, and it's very adaptable to many situations. That's why it's my go-to rig. To tie this rig, first you need to take a 15-inch section of cam stiff material. Firstly, what I'll do is take some stripping scissors and strip around 5 inches of the coating off, exposing the inner braid. I then take a 5 to 6 inch length of recoil, snip that off, and I'll fold that in half. This is where I'm going to set the height of the hooking section. So I'll measure off around about 1.5 inches from the end of that loop to my 2 tag ends and fold it in half again. That gives me my loop to tie my Albright knot. I'm then going to take the braided section of the cam stiff material and pass it through that second loop that I've made in the recoil. This will form the first part of my Albright knot. I'm then going to whip up the 2 sections 8 times and back down 4 times, which creates my Albright knot. I then take the tag end and pass it back through the loop the same way that I came up through the loop. You can then bed everything down, moisten it and just neaten it all down, and then pull it tight with a puller tool. This will then create your boom section. Once this is done, all you need to do is create the length of your boom section. For this trip, I've been using it at around 5.5 to 6 inches. So I make another loop at the end of that section and just tie a very simple overhand knot, leaving me with a loop of around 1 inch. This creates a nice little boom for easy attachment to either a swivel or a quick change swivel, depending on what your lead system is. Now for the actual hooking section, take a hook of your choice. In this instance, I'm using a size 4 beak chod. I prefer a chod pattern for this type of material because it's very, very stiff, especially doubled over. So you want an outturned eye. I'll pass the loop of chod material through the eye of the hook, so it exits out the back. Then thread on a hook ring swivel and pass the loop over the bend of the hook, which creates your D section. I like the end of my D section to sort of end in line with the barb of the hook. I form the D section, steam it over a kettle. All that I then need to do is to add a couple of bits of putty, one on the Albright knot to balance my pop-up, and then a small mouse drop in halfway down the boom just to make sure everything's pinned to the bottom. And then it's time to add the pop-up of your choice. In this terms, I'm just using a 16mm pop-up with a very small fake corn topper for a bit of visual as I'm fishing over a bit of mixed bait. For the most part, I'll just use a basic pop-up and just balance it out with your putty, steam it all straight, and you've got a really good, efficient rig. Well, it's blowing an absolute hoolie here this afternoon. Wind's gone a massive easterly. Oh, I'm away! Can't make it up, can you? Well, that's amazing. We saw one actually about 20 minutes ago, and it felt like it was about 30 yards off the back of me, but it was a decent fish. I actually pointed it out to the camera, funnily enough, and just about to give you an update what I was going to do, and the left-hand rod pulled down and we're away. Slowly coming up now. A few bubbles coming up there as they adjust the old swim bladder, I suppose. Bringing them up out 30 foot. Here she comes. And a nice scaly mirror. Oh, lovely. Oh, that's angry. The old dorsal's going up. Good linear, lovely. Well, I was just about to tell you how I thought this massive easterly that's blown up today had dragged the fish off down into the tarmac bay. Just been watching them boshing down there all afternoon to the point where I was about to up sticks and move down there, but there are 3 other anglers in that area and I just thought I'm going to be in their way, it's not fair. So decided to stay put and actually started to see a few fish backing up on the wind. So just about to tell you that, and the left-hand rod's bent down to the water and out of 30 foot. I've had a beautiful take, and we've got a lovely mirror to photograph right now. As soon as we've done that, I'm going to get these rods in, get back to the van, get some more bait sorted out. We've got a massive pressure drop. It's going from 1,020 to 990 tonight. Looks really good for a bite. So I'm going to get everything prepped up early for dusk, rods back in, and hopefully I'll have some news for you in the morning. Well, there we go. You cannot make this up. Mid-afternoon, 15 degrees with a 40-mile-an-hour easterly blowing, bright sunshine, 1,020 pressure, and out of over 30 foot of water, this one rattles off. Lovely old Elstow linear. Unbelievable. What an afternoon that's made it into. God. Proper scrap and all in that deep water. Incredible. You will do, old mate. When fishing these really deep venues, I like to have a pretty specific mix in my armoury to ensure that I'm fishing directly onto my baited rigs. So to that end, the main bulk of my mix is made up of straightforward 16mm boilies. So these are a nice heavy item that I know are going to drop straight down through the water column and get to the deck pretty quickly. Firstly, I do like to coat these in some liquids. So I'm getting some liquid to the bottom. I make sure that I sort of prep them up to 48 hours in advance, get the liquids to go right into the boilie. And on top of that, I'll then add a good few handfuls of the 12mm legacy boilies in the active range. So these have got the active coating around them, so that these will drop to the bottom and give me that little carpet of added attraction on the bottom, which I think is really important, especially at this time of year. I mean, you're just not going to get crumb and small particles down through the water column without them drifting off on these big winds in deep water. So hence the bigger, heavier particles. To that I will add whole nuts, a good few handfuls of tiger nuts and maybe a few handfuls of peanuts. And alongside that, just you know, something that grabs hold of the liquid, I'll add a few handfuls of hemp. Now, I don't mind if the hemp does spread out a little bit over the swim. It does give the fish something to browse over, but the bulk of the items that I'm spomming out onto my area will drop through that surface layer and get into the water column and drop down onto my carefully marked up baited spots. So the problem being with the deeper lakes is once you get a big wind on them, that first couple of feet, when you spom out, all the smaller particles and items are just going to start getting drifted on until they break that first couple of feet of the water column. They're just going to go everywhere. So, you know, for me, it's really important to make a good solid mix of decent sized items that are going to get down there to where you're actually fishing. I don't want to be dragging the fish off to other areas of the swim, which will make it firstly harder to get a bite and take longer to get a bite. So yeah, for deep waters, a good mix of heavy items spommed out over your zone will ensure that the fish are right in, zoned over your rigs when you're actually fishing. Last light of the day now. Been a great first day, to be honest. Rods have now gone out sweet. I've rebaited. I'm looking forward to a lovely barbecue tonight, and more to the point, we've got a massive pressure drop coming in, which should trigger these fish into some sort of frenzy. It's absolutely perfect. Big easterly wind, massive pressure drop. Temperatures for tonight are holding as well, which is you know, absolutely what we want at this time of year. So yeah, all anticipation levels are at maximum, and we'll see what the night brings, and if not, what tomorrow morning brings. But yeah, what a great first day. So, the last one of a long old night. Started off around midnight, had the first bite, and it was sort of every hour and a bit after that, one of the rods would ramp off, and ended up with 4. This is the last one. They've all been much of a muchness. The little pretty one that we just put back, that was the smallest of the bunch, and this one was probably the biggest, to be fair. But that low pressure really did its job. Got them to get their heads down in that deep water. They've really been on the bait, and it's given me a really, really good last night's fishing. Incredible. What a place. Absolutely awesome session. Delivered everything that I could have possibly wanted, from a deep lake, you know, catching them in deep water over a nice bit of bait at this time of year really is a special treat. So yeah, I'm going to get this one back. The rods are back out there for the morning. We're going to ride through this sort of morning period, and then make my way back home to Kent. And yeah, what a trip. Truly memorable. Thank you, Elstow.